Welcome to EPG Pathsala. I am Selvakumar from Department of Maritime History and Marine Archaeology, Tamil University, Tanjavur. Under the subject of Indian culture, we have the paper Principles and Methods of Archaeology, which deals with the basic principles and methods of researching in archaeology. Under this, there is a module, Principles of Stratigraphy and Techniques of Archaeological Excavation. Now we will be focusing on the basic principles of stratigraphy and archaeological excavation techniques. Let's look into the learning objectives. The module basically tries to introduce the methods of archaeological excavation, what is it and how it is important. The aim is to understand the principles of stratigraphy. What is stratigraphy and what are the principles involved in archaeological stratigraphy? And also our aim is to understand the techniques of archaeological excavation. How to undertake archaeological excavation, what are the techniques involved. Before going into the stratigraphic principles and archaeological excavation techniques, let us look into the fundamentals and basics of archaeological excavation. What is an archaeological excavation? Archaeological excavation is a systematic process of digging of natural and cultural layers to document, understand and recover the material remains, ecofacts, and to collect information on their context in order to understand the past human behavior and the cultures on the whole. Our aim is to collect all kinds of information in relation to the past human cultures. Therefore, we need to understand the basic principles of stratigraphy. Without understanding the basic principles of stratigraphy and techniques of excavation, we cannot recover the data completely. Let's look into the basic definition. What is strata? Actually, strata is a Latin word. Singular is stratum. Stratum or strata, it refers to the accumulation of soil sediments at a particular site. It is called stratum. In English, it is called layer. It is identified by the change in color, texture and composition. Color, the appearance of color, it is documented on the basis of Munsell soil color chart. And texture refers to the hardness and softness. Suppose if you touch clay, clay will be soft. If you touch sand, it will be coarse or rough. And we look into the composition. Sometime a soil layer will have more pottery, more material, stones, bones and other composition, other materials which are called composition. Coming to the definition of geological layers are much different from archaeological layers. The layers that are without cultural materials are called natural layers or geological layers. The study of strata and stratigraphy started with geology and later on it was adopted by archaeological layers. Then we have cultural layers or sediments. What are cultural layers and sediments? The layers that have cultural materials, that means materials made by human beings, are called cultural layers or cultural sediments. Next important concept is stratigraphy. What is stratigraphy? Stratigraphy is actually a subdiscipline of geology that understands the different rocks, soil and sedimentary layer. The same concept of stratigraphy has been applied to archaeological research. In archaeology, the study of stratigraphy seeks to understand the relationship between various strata. So therefore, stratigraphy is very important in archaeological excavation as well as to understand the relationship between various layers. Going into the history of the stratigraphy and the principles, we need to look into the field of geology because we get many of the ideas related to stratigraphy from geology. Nicholas Steno was an important geologist who contributed for the development of laws related to stratigraphy. He was a Danish-born geologist who was known as father of stratigraphy. He observed that geology is not totally chaotic. He said rock layers are chronological record of Earth's history and past life. By systematically and carefully observing, we can find a relationship and system in the formation of soil layers. That's the main argument. For this, he put forward three fundamental laws. They are known as the basic laws of stratigraphy. One is law of superposition, second is law of original horizontality, third is law of cross-cutting relationship. Let's look into these laws in detail. First, law of superposition. This is very important law. This is applied in archaeological context as well. In an undisturbed strata, the oldest layer lies at the bottom and the youngest layer lies at the top. This is a very important law used by archaeologists in a context where if we do not have any evidence of disturbance, the bottommost layer is the earliest and the topmost layer is the latest. This may not be applicable to all contexts. Let's say if due to earthquake or some other factors the soil layers are reversed, this law will not be applicable. Therefore, when we are excavating or when we are applying this particular principle in archaeological context, we need to look at the other context and also the nature of the sediment and its geomorphic context. Otherwise, we will be applying the wrong interpretation. We will be applying the wrong laws and try to get a wrong interpretation. Another important law here is law of original horizontality. Here, beds of sediment deposited in water form as horizontal layers due to gravitational setting is the fundamental concept. That means if any sediment takes place under watery condition in a pond or a lake, because of gravitational force, the soil particles or other minute particles which are in the water, they gradually settle at the base and form perfect horizontal surface. In an archaeological excavation, we come across such situation very frequently. This leads to very flat and highly horizontal sediment. We may also come across such a feature when we are excavating a floor of a house. In the case of floor of the house, what people do, they collect clay and they settle it and they keep it in a level. Human beings have a tendency to live on a surface, at least from the historical or protohistoric period, surface that is very plain or flat. They wouldn't want their house to remain in an undulated condition. That is why people create such flat horizontal floor. We may mistake this as a river deposit. This is where archaeologists have to be very careful. The same principle, when we apply to geological context, it has different interpretation. If you apply the same principle here, in this context, this horizontal layer of clay is artificially created by people. So this is very important. Whenever we import and introduce laws framed in other disciplines, we have to apply them very carefully. Next important law contributed by Nicholas Steno is that law of lateral continuity. Horizontal strata extend laterally until they thin to zero thickness, pinch out at the edge of their basin of deposition. This is another important fundamental law which many of the archaeological students do not pay attention. What happens when we excavate an archaeological site? Normally, we tend to draw very horizontal lines in the stratigraphy or section. Actually, some of the layers which are formed naturally, they will thin out at the edges. So you will not have a flat layer running in same thickness all across. So this particular law is very important. Another important law in relation to stratigraphy is law of cross-cutting relationship. This particular law was developed by Charles Lyell, one of the famous geologists of early years. He says an event that cuts across existing rock is younger than the disturbed rock. This law was developed by Charles Lyell, which means, suppose let's say there is a rock, let's say this table is a rock, then I cut this, say I cut, and the cutting activity represent a kind of earthquake. This event is later than the date of the table. Similarly, when a rock is cracked or when it is cut by a event or some other force, that time of that event and that force is later than the date of the rock. Another important law related to stratigraphy is principle of inclusion. What is inclusion? Inclusion is any kind of material that is found in a particular layer. We also use the term composition. We saw the term composition earlier. Composition refers to same as inclusion. What is found or what is included in a particular sediment. Principle of inclusion says inclusion found in an object or sediments could be older than the sediment. This is another simple law. If you have any inclusion in a material, the inclusion is older than the object or the clay or the making of that particular object. For example, let's say we take the clay from the earth and make a pot. The making of pot, the event of making of the pot is later, but the clay particles are much older. The same law is also applicable to the rock formation. Sometimes one major rock formation may have small particles which are older in date. Coming to the principles of stratigraphy, we have several developments. We have a famous archaeologist called Chris Harris, who extensively worked on archaeological excavation methods and also on archaeological stratigraphy. He felt that we cannot directly take the geological laws of stratigraphy and principles and apply them. So he did a lot of experiments and he critically analyzed the stratigraphy and tried to reinterpret the basic geological laws for archaeological purpose. According to Harris, the principles of archaeological stratigraphy, which is the science by which archaeological sites may be properly understood, are thus everywhere applicable. He says these laws are exclusively meant for archaeological context. If we look into the development of archaeological stratigraphy, which derives from geology, we have to go back to Charles Lyell, who in 1830 published a book called Principles of Geology. The concept of stratigraphy took roots in this particular point of time. From then, archaeologists started applying this principle for various archaeological sites. The principles of archaeological stratigraphy is applied by the archaeologists for various archaeological sites. For more than 150 years, archaeologists have applied this particular law and they have developed new understandings. As a result of that, several modifications have been done and several better understanding has developed in the area of archaeological excavation. Now we have Harris matrix system, which helps us to illustrate the relationships and stratigraphy in a better manner. Earlier, in the case of geology, they were dealing with mainly huge sediments of rocks, but in the case of archaeologists, they were directly taking the concept of strata or layers. Now we have advanced to a level where we excavate soil layers or sediments as locus or loci, as small units. We have refined our excavation techniques over the years. An important law that we have already discussed is the law of superposition. Law of superposition, as I already mentioned, it refers to the bottommost layer as the earliest and the topmost layer as the latest. Here, Harris again refines this particular law and says, in a series of layers and interfacial features as originally created, the upper units of stratification are younger, the lower are older. For each must have been deposited on or created by the removal of a pre-existing mass of archaeological stratification. Here, Harris has introduced the archaeological nuances in redefining this particular law. Next is law of original continuity. Here, Harris observes any archaeological deposit as originally laid down or any interfacial feature as originally created will be bounded by a basin of deposition or may thin down to a feather edge. Therefore, if any edge of a deposit or interfacial feature is exposed in a vertical view, a part of its original extent must have been removed by excavation or erosion, and its continuity must be sought or its absence explained. So when we apply this principle in an archaeological context, we can be very sure some of the sections that we see have multiple sediments or layers which are hidden beyond the unexcavated area. Therefore, this law helps us to trace the sediments or layers more accurately. Once you are aware of this law, when you excavate in the field, you will be very careful. Even if you notice a small patch of layer, you may understand that there may be a larger layer continuing in much thicker scale beyond the boundary of the trench. This is the important point that we get from this particular principles of stratigraphy. Techniques of excavation. So far, we were looking into the fundamental stratigraphic principles, law of superposition and other features that helps us to interpret archaeological site. And next, we will have to move into the techniques of excavation. How will we excavate? We have already seen different methods of excavation like horizontal, vertical, and excavation of a town plan, excavation of a burials or stupa. But now we will be focusing into how we are going to actually dig into. Should we use a pickaxe, or should we use a knife, or should we use a trowel? Everything depends upon what kind of site that we are dealing with. If we are dealing with a prehistoric site, we need a different strategy. If we are dealing with a protohistoric or historical site, we have to adopt a completely different strategy. Trowel is an ideal tool for archaeological excavation. When we are excavating a site, we need to identify the points of interface. That is a fundamental feature or fundamental factor that an excavator has to look, which means an archaeologist has to identify where a layer or a locus ends, where another locus or layer begins. This has to be done vertically as well as horizontally. Sometimes a particular layer or locus may thin out on top of another layer. These kind of interfaces are very important for identifying the relationship between the layer. That is why an archaeologist has to excavate with a trowel and a brush very frequently. Very frequent brushing and scraping gently can help you to identify the interface. So traveling is an important method that archaeologists has to undertake very carefully while excavating. This is very important if archaeologists have to interpret the site and identify the relationship. Excavation of sedimentary layer. These are another forms of layer. Sedimentary layers are likely to be in horizontal orientation. Normally, we find sedimentary layers in a horizontal orientation. This happens because, as I said earlier, people who live in a particular site, generally they prefer leveled surface. Even if it is a settlement, people would like the settlement to be of a flat in nature in the surface level, unless they are living in a hilly area where it is beyond their capacity to level the surface. Even in the hilly areas, people create terraces and also a leveled surface and then construct their houses. That is why normally we are likely to find horizontal layers, and they have to be excavated horizontally. Sometimes they may also lie in other orientation. It is not necessary that a layer has to be always horizontal. This could be a mistake done in archaeological excavation. Suppose if the layer slopes to a lower area, if we cut horizontally, we will be mixing two different layers. That is why we have to look at the course of that particular terrain and context to understand how the layer flows or how it goes into other area. That is why troweling is the best technique for identifying the interface as well as slope. Another important method that is adopted in archaeology is called the locus-based method or contextual method, in which the contexts are identified and then excavated. We should not be carried away by geological principles. We are not dealing with flood or other natural features. We are dealing with cultures and human behavior. It is not necessary that we would be encountering the same kind of feature here. Therefore, you may get a collection of artifacts on the surface without a soil formation. Therefore, we should not be depending upon soil formation in demarcating the locus or loci. Another method adopted by archaeologists is excavation by arbitrary units. Here, the thickness of 2 cm or 5 cm are excavated. This method may be more relevant in some contexts, because in some areas, if we use locus method and excavate say 50 centimeter as one lot or as one unit, what we are trying to do is actually combining multiple layers of occupational evidence into one. Though the soil color and content may look similar, they might have formed over a time of 100 years or 150 years. That is why arbitrary units of 2 or 5 centimeters only in some contexts could be very useful. We need not completely leave this method of arbitrary excavation and thinking that it is very unscientific, especially in the context of prehistoric sites we have where more natural formation processes are acting. These kind of arbitrary units of 1 centimeter or just scraping and removing the soil could be very useful. Next important component is excavation of a pit. In how will you excavate a pit? Pit is a major disturbance to an archaeological site. Pit can be part of a post hole, or it can be part of any other activity, a burial or something else that people did for which they excavated the soil. Therefore, an archaeologist has to identify the pit. Pits are identified by the variation in soil color, texture, and composition. Soft soil sediments are always found in the pit if the pit did not have any kind of hard soil and if the people intentionally put soft soil. Therefore, pits can be easily demarcated. The soil that are found in the pit has to be removed first. It should not be mixed with the other older sediment. Then it has to be separately sieved and the materials has to be removed. Therefore, in any kind of archaeological excavation, identifying the pit is an important step. If you mix the material from the pit with the other layers, you are bound to misinterpret. Excavation of brick structure. Brick structures are another important feature that we encounter in historical as well as protohistoric sites. Sometimes we get burnt brick structure, sometimes we get mud brick structure. Excavating a mud brick structure is much more tough than the burnt brick structure. Mud brick structure, sometimes they are not easily seen. It is in this context we can use the knife or trowel to have a feel of that context. Sometimes repeated brushing can also expose these mud bricks. And when we are excavating a large area, the plan of that particular feature can also tell sometime if there exists a mud brick structure. In addition to that, the distribution of the material, like large number of pottery or limited number of pottery, sometimes the floor level in which potsherds are lying in a flatter orientation. Suppose if you have a potsherd lying in a vertical orientation, you can think that it is a disturbed deposit. In houses and also in floor levels, sometimes the potsherds lie in a flat orientation, especially the exterior surface face the top. Normally, when people lay the houses, what they do, they keep the exterior surface of the concave part of the pottery and they put it below so that it will not hurt when you walk. So these kind of small nuances can be used for identifying a brick floor or mud brick floor or a brick wall. So these are very important features that you have to observe while excavating. And when we come across a brick structure, sometime we may not find a brick structure all of a sudden. We will get only one small broken brick on top of while we are excavating. You should not immediately remove. Sometime underneath you may have an entire wall sitting. Sometime you have one brick here and after 5 centimeter it becomes 2, 3, 4 and then entire wall. Therefore, even if you find a small brick fragment on top, you should not touch it until you excavate the sideways so that you can go further. Therefore, brick structure excavation requires careful observation and planning. Next is excavation of a pile or dump. In India, we use the term dump or pile. Pile is actually an accumulation of soil or other sediment, bricks, pottery, and they occur like a heap. They occur like in the shape of a mound. They have the shape of a hill, quite opposite to a pit. Pit will have a shape of different nature, it will go further, while a pile will be something like that. So when we are excavating, we may find a pile or a dump being exposed in a smaller area. When you extend, as you excavate, it will cover a larger area. So they have to be demarcated and excavated separately. So they are another important feature that we encounter in archaeological sites. Screening and sieving. This is another important method in archaeological excavation. If you excavate a site and if you are sieving or not screening the soil, you are not recovering anything. you are just collecting only beads or attractive antiquities. Screening or sieving helps us to recover all kinds of material remains, even small beads, sometimes bones, charcoal, everything can be recovered. We can use two type of screening, sometime dry, sometime wet screening. Dry screening is ideal where the soil is very loose or where the soil is dry, and wet cleaning can be very useful for recovering plant remains. So these both the techniques should be adopted in an archaeological site according to the need and the context. Dry screening, as I already mentioned, it is very important. It can throw lot of information, lot of other materials which cannot be normally seen with the naked eye. Water screening method, what you see in this image is that people are using, archaeologists are using water screening, in which they recover lot of material and with lot of ease. This method can be adopted if your soil is high in moisture, where dry sieving will not work. This technique is very ideal in such situation, and you will be able to recover lot of material. What you see in this picture is a brick wall, and the brick wall has been left out and it is lying adjacent to the section. Normally, when we have a brick wall, it is better to have a section nearby the brick wall so that we can observe the relationship. As soon as you are excavating a brick wall or other brick structure, your aim should be to find the working floor. What was the working floor of the building? What was the foundation of that brick wall? When was it built? And what are the layers that the brick wall cuts across? This could help you in identifying and interpreting this brick wall. If you are not raising these questions at the time of excavation, you will be missing lot of information. What happens when you are excavating? If the site dries up, if the section dries up, you may not be able to observe many features. Sometimes you are able to observe the features when the soil sediment is in wet condition. Sometimes you may be able to observe them when they dry out. As archaeologists, you should try both the techniques. You should observe as soon as you excavate when the soil sediment is slightly wet, and also you should leave it to dry. That is why taking section is very important in archaeological sites. Here you have a ring well and the brick wall by the side. When you encounter a ring well or any kind of feature that lies below the surface, you should try to identify the working floor, what was the top level, from which period it was dug, what are the layers it was cutting across. These features have to be documented. Therefore, while excavating, you have to look at all these features. What do you see in this particular image is the complicated nature of the sediment layers. They suggest how complicated these layers are. Normally, we assume that the layers are lying or flow horizontally, but if you look at the image, you can understand they have a very complicated pattern. So the task of archaeologists is to trace the exact shape of the layer and then recover the antiquities and document the layers as they deposited or as they were formed in the early period. Harris matrix is another important method that we use in archaeological stratigraphy. It helps to understand the relationship between various loci and various layers. This can illustrate the earlier locus and the later locus, and if they are touching or if they are not touching each other, and what are the relationship that they have. Here you have multiple levels of documentation showing the relationship between various loci or activity areas. This is another important aspect of Harris matrix, where different kinds of relationship between soil layers and sediments are illustrated. On the left side, you have layers that are running parallelly without touching. This is a different kind of stratigraphic situation. Then you have layers lying one above the another, and then layers of other types. You have different kinds of layers. Coming to the summary part, we have seen so far the importance of archaeological stratigraphy, how this idea of stratigraphy evolved in the field of geology, and how it was adopted by archaeologists, and how they have improved upon and developed and modified to suit archaeological context. The simple principle of stratigraphy is that the bottommost layer is the earliest and the topmost layer is the latest. Then we have several other important regulations or principles like law of original horizontality, which argues that the sediments deposited in water lie horizontally due to gravitational activity. Law of cross-cutting relationship, which says that a rock that cuts across existing feature is younger than the disturbed feature. This particular law was developed by Charles Lyell. Suppose if a feature is cut or disturbed by a later event, that later event is definitely later in time. We can see the traces in archaeological or geological context. This is the same principle that we use in the context of a pit. Suppose if a pit is dug into a old brick floor, the brick floor is earlier and the pit as an event is later. Sometime the event may be even if of one day later in time, we have to document as a part of this stratigraphic documentation that the later events have to be properly recorded. Whether the later event, if it is one day or 100 years or 1000 years, they have to be documented properly in archaeological context, and Harris matrix is an important tool for documenting these relationships. I hope you understood most of the points related to principles of stratigraphy and archaeological excavation techniques. If you have any queries or doubts, kindly consult the e-text that goes with the module. Kindly log on to EPG Pathshala for more information and queries. Thank you.